Hello everyone! Today we are looking at how we can morph a standard 2D battle map to be used with a little more depth inside 3D canvas. We will go through the whole process from doing the depth stuff in Blender, and then we're gonna import it into 3D canvas. So you don't need to know how to use Blender. I just started like yesterday. I really have no clue, but I know how to do this specific thing, like I did some research. So let's figure it out. We're gonna open Blender, it's free to download, and you can make a new project. Let's hit General, and you will be welcomed with this cube. So of course we don't want a cube. First thing, we delete the cube with the delete key, we just click it to select it. Now, we want to create our battle map, so we Shift A to open the add menu. We want to add a mesh and we want to add a plane. Now we have our plane, as you can see, and we're gonna make it a little bit bigger. You can just hold the S key and not really hold, you can just press it and you will go into this scaling mode. So now we want to scale it appropriately. It doesn't really matter what scale you use, to be honest, but just kind of make it biggish, I guess, because then we will scale it into 3D canvas, so we're fine. So I'm gonna use this scale like this. A quick note, as it might not be obvious, if your image is not a square, you want to go, while you're in the layout mode, you just select your plane after you're done scaling it. There is this little arrow up here. If you click it, you have transforms. And basically, you can scale on the dimensions to get your map correct. So you can take these numbers, basically as pixels. So if your map is 5,000 by 3,000, you can do like 5,000 by 3,000, so 50-30, and then apply your image. Now we're gonna use the sculpting mode to morph this, but we're gonna take some other steps first, because if we just go to sculpting, you will see that you have all these tools to do stuff. If you click, nothing happens. So let's go back to layout. Nothing is happening because if we go here on the top right to see the wireframe, you will see that this plane only has 4 vertices on the corners. And what the sculpt mode does, it's basically it morphs the vertices, the points that make up the geometry. So what we need to do is add more vertices for the morphing to work. How do we do that? We can stay in this view. So you have your plane selected and everything here. We just go to this wrench icon, the modifiers on the right, add modifier, and we want the subdivision surface. So we click that. As you can see, we have this weird shape. We don't want that, so instead of Catmull Clark, we go to simple. And now we want to add subdivisions. Let's disable optimal display so we can preview what we are actually doing. And this levels view, whatever, this is the number of subdivisions. So you just want to make this number like 6. When we are happy with the number of subdivisions, after like this little arrow icon here, right above simple, you click it and you click apply, because otherwise this modification will not do anything. And now we have our model, our mesh that can be sculpted. So if we go into sculpting, you will see that now it's drawing stuff. So if I go, like, you cannot see it very well, but you can kind of see that now there is a bump in it. So let's undo our change. Now what we want to do is add our map texture to this plane. So back to layout again, with our thing selected. We go to materials, which is this reddish sphere here. We want to add a new material. So we add a material, and you can basically leave everything as default. We are not gonna go into like the complicated stuff. We're just gonna change some parameters. So first, in the base color, if you click on this little dot here, you can choose a texture instead of a base color. So we go here and go image texture. Now this thing will appear, we click on open, and I will go and grab a file that a map that I downloaded. You can see the original stuff. I will have a link in the description. Now we have an image. So, but as you can see, we can't see shit. Where is our image? Because we are in the blank object mode, so no textures. So if we go to this, we will now see that we do have a texture. Okay. So now that we have a texture, we want to do some minor changes to the material, because otherwise it will look very glossy once you import it in 3D Canvas. What you want to do is bump the roughness to 1. And it should be enough. So now we have a material and we have our points to morph. We have everything. We can go into sculpting. So here again, this will be reset because this is saved for each view that you use. So let's go back to see our texture. And now we have the texture. So now we can use the controls to move around. So if you hold down middle mouse button, you can rotate the camera. And if you hold down shift and middle mouse button, you can pan. Of course, the scroll wheel will zoom. So what are we doing in sculpting? I'm not an artist. I'm really shit at any artsy stuff. So I'm just gonna do something very quick and dirty, but I'm gonna show you like the tools you can use. Like on the left, you can see that you have all these tools. You can play with them. This is draw sharp, clay strips, clay thumb. I don't know like the exact usage for those. These are for people that can do actual modeling, but I'm just gonna show you these basic tools. So now we have draw. Here on the top, we can change the radius, we can change the strength, and we can change if it's adding or removing. So if we, for example, we make this giant brush and we do this, you will see that this stuff gets morphed up, right? If you use minus instead, this will get morphed down. Perfect. But this maybe looks kind of weird. You can use like a smaller brush and try to contour it like this, for example. And then you could use the flatten to try and make it a bit flatter, but it's a bit finicky. Instead, we're gonna use another method, so let's do some Ctrl-Z on this. Oh. Back to sculpting. We're gonna look at the mask, because you can basically play with all these brushes and kind of figure out what you want to do. And you can basically play with them. There is not much to explain. If you hover them, it will kind of tell you what it does, and you can click and try. But if you scroll down, we have this masking tool. And this is way more interesting to do like a quick first draft. So, for example, all this area on the top right here needs like a base elevation that needs to be kind of the same. So, whoops. So let's go to the box mask. If you hold down the left click, you have the other options. I'm gonna use the Lasso Mask. And I'm gonna basically attempt to select this whole area around here. And this is gonna make a mask. So basically anything that is inside the mask will be ignored when we use tools. So let's fix that, because we actually want the inverse. So let's go in on the top, mask, invert. Now we are only working on this thing. And from here you have a lot of possibilities. So first, this is now masked, so you can go back to these tools here and kind of go like this, and it will make your life a bit easier. But we can use this tool as well. So if you go to the move This is very counterintuitive because move, you would assume that moves stuff. It actually extrudes as well. So the blue arrow here will move on the y-axis. I mean, it's the Z in this case, but... And we can click on this arrow and lift up stuff. You see what this is doing. We can even go down. So we're gonna go up a bit. There we go. And now, if we go back to the mask, to the lasso mask, we can go mask, we can clear the mask, and now we can only, for example, select this. I'm gonna do a very quick and dirty job. Mask, invert, we go back to the move, and we lift it up again. And then mask, clear mask, back to the lasso, we select this, move, we want to invert first, and there we go. And basically we can keep going on. I'm just gonna quickly do this as well. I'm not being very precise, like if you're doing this for your actual map, maybe be a bit more precise than I'm being, but you get the gist of it. Mask, invert, move tool, it's always the same process. I'm gonna kind of finish this map just so you get an idea. The more you see a process, the better you learn. Yes, clear mask. And we can keep basically doing this kind of forever. Maybe this side here is a bit taller, and this is the same as well, but also this part down here needs to be a bit higher. So you can select multiple parts, mask, invert, move, and lift it up. And then mask, clear, go back to the mask. And I think like the last thing we're gonna do is these little details down here. So this, and maybe this as well. Why not? And mask, invert, lift it up. And look at this, like, it's not perfect. It's not like incredible 3D modeling skills, but it took me like 5 minutes. And now we have this neat map here. You can even do more, like you could go down in this and make columns. So let's actually do that just to demonstrate. So we can use, for example, mask. We clear the mask. We can use the box mask, for example. And if we go down here, we can do this, we can do this, and do this. So assuming these are like columns, that's my best assumption. Mask, invert, move, and we go up. And there you go. Again, not perfect, but not bad. Okay, so now let's assume that we are done. Maybe you want to, after you did this, you want to do some more like detailed stuff. Maybe you want to go in with the draw tool and do like some less sharp edges like this. You can go in and like play with it. But yeah, I'm just gonna show you the very basics, and then you can fiddle with it, because really it's mostly about fiddling with the tools that Blender gives you. But yeah, I'm not gonna go any further. So we have our map. It looks pretty good, and at this point we want to go into layout. We go back to layout and see how this is, and we select it and we do shade smooth, and this is the final look that we'll have. So as you can see, the sharp edges are not even that bad. And now we want to do one final check before we export, and this check is to see if the material is set up correctly, precisely the model, because I'm not sure why it gets flipped sometimes. So let me explain. Every geometry in 3D has a front face and a back face. What most 3D games do is they cut off the back face, so it's not rendered. What this means is that a plane will be visible from one side but invisible from the other one. And we can check which side is which by using in the material properties. So I'm still in my plane selected, go to the red ball, and if you scroll down you will find backface culling. If we click it, you will see that our front face is the bottom one. So how do we fix this? Very, very simple. So we go into edit mode, we have our cube selected, we go to let me remember, because I kind of forgot. So we want the normals. There we go. So mesh. So top we go mesh, normals. It's not easy to find stuff in Blender, as you can see. And we want to flip them. So mesh, normal, flip. And this means that our back face and front face get flipped. So if we go back to object mode, we still have the back face culling, but now it's the bottom that's getting cut off. So perfect. Now we have our map. What do we do with it? Very simple. Now we want to export it. So make sure it's selected. That means there is the orange outline, because you got also the camera and the light, and you do not want to export those. Let's go to File, Export, and we want to do FBX. We want to bake the texture in. So we do, let's do some settings. Path mode on top here. You see path mode. We're gonna go to copy the texture, and then we want to enable this box thing, embed textures. So click this, and now we will embed the textures. This we want to limit to selected objects. We have the scale, we have all the other settings that we can leave as is, and I'm gonna go into this and call it terrain test. And it's gonna make my FBX, and let's go. Now, in theory, all should be good. So I will join you back inside Foundry to verify that everything else is correct. Okay, and we are back inside Foundry. So I just made a new map, just made it square, 4000 by 4000, doesn't really matter. And we're gonna try to import our thing. I haven't tested it, so if it's fucked, I did not like cut the recording. This all live. So I'm gonna place down my like generic token. This is like as no settings. I'm gonna import the model, and we're gonna go to assets, 3D models, and I have a Blender terrain test, and I have my terrain test FBX that we made like right now. I'm gonna update it. I'm gonna go to 3D mode, and look at that, we have a terrain. So now we just need to do some tweaking. How do you scale this, you might be asking. So by default, 3D Preview tries to match the model to the size of the token. So that model is actually 1 by 1. So if our map is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so it's probably 40 by 40, right? It's no need for me to count. So this is 40 by 40. So in theory, if we scale this, I would guess 20 times, possibly. It was actually 40. Whoops. Math, yes. So if we scale this 40 times, it now should match our background. So we can drag it around if we want to place it. I do have auto rotate, which is probably not the best idea for this, but let's disable auto rotate. Yes, okay. So you can see that it's matching, I would say. So we have our map. It seems to be aligned. So we can exit 3D. Now, what we do is simple. We lock it in place, so we disable the draggable, so you don't drag it around accidentally while you do other stuff. And we set it to always visible. And okay, now in the scene settings, since we don't really have a scene background, we might as well disable the display background. Now we're gonna make it like maybe a bit fancy. So we can have a skybox image. And just grab some of the penguin stuff that is linked in the files. I do wish those files were kind of more organized, but okay, so we don't have a background, and we make the sun a bit further, and there we go. Now, of course, the lighting is kind of wonk, but we can adjust it. As you can see, if you're on the latest update, you should have the live preview on the lighting. So you can see how it changes. So we want it quite far, I guess. And I guess we want it a bit less intense. Maybe something like this. There you go. Maybe a bit more. But yeah, you can play with it, and if you want, could even have like the red desert and just go full red. Because this will actually color the images. If not, you can just go white. It will preserve the original color, which I mostly like it to. I'm most likely to like to use white, but a bit less bright. Save changes, and there you go. Now it's not dragging around when I click, and we have our beautiful 2D map made into 3D. Then you can place your tokens, and do all the stuff you want. Thank you for watching. I hope the guide was not too hard to follow. I think it's a pretty simple process, which gives you a pretty decent result, to be honest, for the effort that it took to make this. You could spend all the time you want fine-tuning, smoothing out the edges and all that stuff. That is up to you. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.